Welcome back to the Fitness League, helping busy humans build strong bodies, sharper minds, and better lives. Join us each week as we cut through the noise, challenge the norms, and empower you to train smarter and live longer. In today's episode, we are going to be diving into why you keep starting over and can't just stick with the program. We'll be talking about the all-or-nothing traps, the dopamine of day one, emotional eating and escape habits, and why we create identities around these specific goals. Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome.
Welcome. We're sleepy today. Throwing a 6-year-old birthday party is not for the weak. I will say that.
Hosting just is not for the week. It always sounds great in theory.
True.
You're like, yeah, I'd rather do it here than anywhere else. So I don't have to go anywhere. Then you got to do all the work to prep your house and host.
And
then you're
granted, like my sister, our parents, like everybody helped so much, but like still, like even just like talking to everybody, I feel like is so exhausting. Like making sure you say hi to everybody and not. I mean, I was also balancing feeding Wes and like making sure he was going down for his nap. So I feel like I blinked and the whole party was over. But yeah.
No, you're talking to everybody, but you're talking to nobody. That's why, like, when we were laying out, all right, when are we doing this meetup? This, like, you guys are obviously welcome for this, but it wasn't gonna be like a quality time weekend if you came this weekend because we'd be bouncing around with everybody.
Yeah.
Such is the struggle. So now we get to deal with figuring out if Kai has strep throat or not. So we had back-to-back birthday parties this weekend. He screamed the entire time, like they just had a blast.
Crazy kids, like just screaming, like having fun. So it could be just like the screaming.
Like,
But do your tonsils swell from screaming?
I don't
They're
think
huge.
so.
I don't think so either, which is why.
So.
And you can
Does
like
he sound
hear,
like raspy today?
yeah, not raspy, but you could hear like he almost sounds like muffled.
Stuffy.
Yeah, it's like you could tell he's like talking very gingerly because it hurts.
Yeah.
So we'll see, but
I'll be
that's
curious.
the
If he gets a
aftermath.
fever, yeah. I feel
Well,
like
this
with
is
strep,
2 or
you
3
typically
days.
Get a fever, but
yeah.
We shall see. So that's post podcast. We head over to the doctor and get that figured out. But let's dive in here and break it all down. So this episode, again, we're going to be talking about why you keep starting over, the biggest obstacles to you sticking with a plan, and the most common thing in that regard, the easiest thing to start talking about is this all or nothing trap, which is intertwined with this dopamine effect of starting on Monday, of starting day one. I'm going to hit this thing hard. It's the entrapment of these fad diets and these, sexy trends and these ridiculous challenges that you already know are not sustainable. But it's, if I can grind, if I can be tough, if I can do this thing for 30 days, I'm going to be able to build all this momentum and change my entire life. But the fact of the matter is it just doesn't work like that.
I think that's probably, if I had to pick one, this is difficult because we've obviously worked with thousands of people at Levolution and with the app as well. But if I had to pick one thing that would consistently come up, and I know you guys took your own, consult calls for a long time too, as did I until Danielle took over. If I had to pick the one common theme of those consult calls, it would be being stuck in that all or nothing mindset. Because I would say the vast majority of people, when we got on a call with them, would talk about like, I'm in and then I'm out. I train for the marathon, I do it, and then I'm on the couch for the next 6 months. And then I do the Spartan race and I train for that and it's great because I have the goal, and then I don't exercise for a year. And it's this constant, like, either I have this goal and I'm all in or I'm all out. And I feel like people finally come to us when they're like, okay, I don't want to do it that way anymore. I want fitness to kind of be like enmeshed within my whole life in a reasonable and sustainable way. And so it's so important to touch on the all or nothing thing, because that's that, like, you keep starting over because you keep stopping, because you keep biting off something that maybe isn't, entirely sustainable. Training for the marathon, that's great. Training for high rocks, that's great. Training for a powerlifting competition, that's great, because it gives people this tangible goal and like timeline to work with. But you're not going to train for an event year round, most likely. Or you're not going to finish marathon training once and immediately start a new one, or immediately start another one after that. I mean, unless you're some sort of elite marathon pro runner athlete or something. But we have to figure out how to ingrain a healthy lifestyle in between having those goals. And you might be someone who thrives really well when you have some sort of timeline or competition or goal, because that does help motivate you, and you can absolutely have that. But an off season should not be 3 months, 6 months, a year, years, multiple years. So I think that there are a few things that contribute to that all or nothing mindset. But I would say if I had to pick one common theme, it is the most common theme of someone who seeks out our help to begin with.
But Joelle, you mentioned something in regards to clients reaching out to us because they realize this thing and now they want help creating that balance so they can sustain it. I think you're saying the same thing, but I would argue to that point, there's an evolution process that happens in between A and B in that regard. Yep. It's not that everyone realizes, oh, I'm in this all or nothing trap, because most people don't. Most people are just asking that question. Why can't I stick with it? Why do I keep starting over? Why is it the same story year after year? Well, it's because you're in the all or nothing trap. It's because you haven't realized you're picking plans, you're picking protocols, you're picking methods that aren't sustainable long term. They think, if I do this thing, this crazy short duration, high intensity thing, I'll reach my goals, and then I can go back to doing what I was doing before. The problem with that is, and what most people are not realizing, is if you do not maintain the protocol, you do not maintain the benefit, you do not maintain the result. The moment you stop doing that, it immediately starts deteriorating. So these 30-day challenges, these 75 hards, which to Andy Frisella's credit, he says is not a fitness program, it's a mindset program. People don't truly understand that. When you do those things and then you stop, it is inevitable that you will end up right back where you started, unless you have another plan in place, plan number 2. Okay, I'm going to crush this challenge, and then next phase of this is here's how I'm going to maintain that progress, that level of fitness I've improved, that level of body composition that I've improved. I'm going to maintain these habits. This will be my jump start, which I'm totally cool with. I've kind of not done quite a 180, but call it like a 75. I've done a 75-degree pivot where I'm cool with the jumping in, do something crazy, do it hard, reinvigorate yourself, get that motivation. But you must have not a fallback plan, but a second phase plan where this is what I'm actually going to do for the rest of my life.
I think it's something we see often too with nutrition and tracking macros. And we get a lot of clients who either pay for like a one-time macro calculation or go through a cut phase with a different coach, and then they're left in the dust, and they're not taught how to come out of that. It's like, we'll get you the results and then you figure it out on your own. You don't know how to live at maintenance. You don't know how to not track. You don't know how to maintain the progress that you got to see, whether it was from tracking macros or any other diet out there. And I think, it goes both ways, obviously on the training side too, but with nutrition stuff, we see it all the time is they go hard for X amount of days. They do this really restrictive diet, whether it's tracking macros, whether it's keto, whether it's carnivore, whatever the popular fad is at the moment, the whole 30, and they go really, really hard. And then it's like the time is up, or they maybe meet the result, or maybe they were doing it for an event of some sort. The event is over and they go back to what they were doing before. And it's like, they don't implement any of the shifts and changes that they made. So they gain all the way back. And so the cycle repeats. But we see it across every spectrum of health and fitness, not just training.
Yeah, if I had to pick a few reasons that I think people kind of land themselves in this position of being kind of all or nothing, I think one, consumers are confused. We scroll social media and you could follow two people who are saying the exact opposite things of one another. You scroll and someone says like, diet soda's fine. And then you scroll to the next post and they're like, diet soda's killing you, right? We are seeing this constantly. And that becomes really, really confusing as a consumer as to what steps am I supposed to actually be following? Or maybe I'm just going to throw everything that I have ever heard about, don't have salt, don't have sugar, don't have carbs, take these supplements, just eat protein, do the HIIT training, do this. And maybe you try to make this massive overhaul of all the things. And A, you're likely overcomplicating things. And B, you're likely doing too much too soon. And I would say that is the biggest recipe for disaster, the combination of those two things, overcomplicating and doing too much too soon. Like, you're picking all the things instead of picking one habit. And I know, Josh, you and I have talked about this before too, of like the 2-page rule or the 5-minute rule, or just making something unfailable. 2 pages in a book, a 5-minute walk, picking that small thing so that you can prove to yourself you could do it, gain competence, gain confidence in being able to follow through with something. But when you pick 10 new habits to overhaul your life with, right? We've even seen this, Alessandra. I feel like people come to us about morning routines. Like, I tried to implement this morning routine. I couldn't stick with it. It was like, well, did you try implementing 12 new things? Or did you try implementing one new thing that would be sustainable and stick toable? So, too much too soon, I think, is a really big part of the all or nothing mindset. We bite off something, we're excited, we have that, rush, that motivation, that dopamine hit from starting something new. And then maybe you're really sore or you're really tired or something stressful happens at work, and like that whole plan just goes to shit. So the question then becomes, how can we bite off something smaller? How can we simplify instead of overcomplicate? And make it so what we're doing actually makes sense for this current chapter of life, as well as whatever your goal is.
Hey guys, real quick. If you've been listening and thinking, I need to start doing something for my health, but I don't have time for a full program, that is literally why we built the SDE Method app. It's a fitness app made for real people with real lives. Busy parents, working professionals, anyone juggling 100 things. You can get a smart, effective workout in around 30 minutes, some even closer to 20 minutes, and log out knowing you made progress. You can finally take the guessing out of your workouts. We have workouts designed to be done at the gym or at home, and you get access to all of them when you sign up. As life phases change, you can pick a new one that aligns better with what you have going on right now. And one more thing, we are also qualified for HSA FSA reimbursement. So just hit the app link in the show notes, start where you are, we'll help with the rest. All right, let's get back to the show. It has to be stupid easy. That is the point of the 2-page rule. This is something I follow myself personally. I need to read 2 pages per night before bed, no matter what. And the reason it's 2 pages is it doesn't matter how tired I am. It doesn't matter what time it is. If I stayed up too late, something was going on, we had the party, I'm reading 2 pages. There's no excuse. It is silly easy. Now, 99 times out of 100, I'm going beyond those 2 pages. But because I checked that first box, I can get that dopamine hit. So this is reshaping how we view that. It doesn't have to be this huge feat. It can be these tiny little things. So you set 5 tiny habits throughout the day. Take a 2-minute walk, read 2 pages, call it the rule of 2 instead of the 2-page rule. 2 little things of anything, 2 push-ups. If you check those boxes throughout the day, you get those little hits of dopamine. And the cool part about that, with the momentum shift and this building of momentum, is it's not even just about those 5 habits that you got to check the box for. It's that every time you check the box, you're motivated to get to the next one, and your decisions in between those quote unquote habits start improving. You want all these other things to go in alignment with this North Star, this goal, and these habits that are moving you toward that. These are just tools, and these are just, again, utilizing dopamine the right way, little shifts in dopamine. This productive thing makes me feel good. I'm going to continue making better decisions. So it's lowering the barrier to entry and making these stupid, simple things the go-to for you on a daily basis.
I think about when Josh and I bought this house. We moved in, it's been 3 years, right? 3?
Yeah.
But I think about when we built this house. So when you're building a house and you have a new build that you're moving into, you almost get in the mindset of you're moving into this house and it's good to go. You shouldn't have to change anything.
It's not almost. That was our mindset. That was our point in buying and building this house.
It'll be perfect.
It'll be perfect.
We'll be done.
We can do it all in one shot. We're done. We can just live in it. And here we are 3 years later. There are so many little projects and things that we have changed and really just implemented to make this house a home that have taken 3 years now, but it's truly starting to feel more like home. And I think it's a great parallel to what we're talking about here is you can't just expect to get your dream body or hit your dream goal all in one shot. Like, it's going to take time, and it's going to take these little choices and little projects, quote unquote, that really just help you get to where you want to be and allow you to make yourself or your life more homey, if you will. So I thought that was a good parallel because we were definitely in that mindset of let's do it all in one shot. Let's do it all at once. And I think so many of you can relate to that with your health and fitness goals too.
I want to give one other example that might be helpful for people to kind of tie into the coaching aspect. It is not uncommon that when someone signs up to work with us for coaching, we send out a questionnaire all about, when someone first signs up, they get this great big questionnaire about like their health, their goals, their preferences, their medical history, their training equipment, how many days a week they want to train, what type of training they typically enjoy, so we can include that in their programming. And it's always very interesting to me. We ask, how many days per week would you like to work out? Would you like to be training? And I can't tell you how often the person who has not worked out in months or years will select 5, 6, 7 days a week. And while I admire the hustle and while I admire the motivation and wanting to really like hit the ground running, the worst thing we could do as the coach is actually then prescribe you 5, 6, 7 days a week of training. Because it would not be sustainable for you. We can't do too much too soon. We will set you up for lack of success. And our goal with coaching is obviously to set you up for success. So we might say, okay, we're not currently doing anything. Let's start with 2, max 3 days a week. And let's see how that feels. Let's see if that works for our schedule. Let's see how that feels for our recovery capacity. Let's see how you mentally and physically feel. Let's make sure soreness isn't lingering. Let's make sure it works for your work schedule, your kid's schedule, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If that feels great and someone does 3 days for, 3 days a week for several weeks and they're like, hey coach, I think I want to add a fourth. And you have shown the confidence and the competence and the ability to be able to do that. Great. Let's do that. But if we're struggling with 3 days a week, we're sure as shit not going to have a good time with sustaining 5 days a week. And so I think that's just a good practical application example of what we mean by doing too much too soon. We can't go from 0 to 100 when it comes to our health and fitness. We pick 1 or 2 things and we start to implement those accordingly. And then based on how that's feeling, based on how that's fitting, based on the what's the word I'm looking for? Adherence, really, to whatever those 1, 2, 3 things are. Cool. Then maybe we add something, or maybe not. We just keep working on these 3 things that we chose.
If it's working, why break it?
Well, it's right. Like the post that you threw up this morning on Revolution, Joelle, your client that works out from home 3 days per week. Her transformation was incredible. And I think that's so important. Like when we are comparing our current lifestyle and health and fitness to people who are way ahead of us, as far as like maybe you follow some elite athletes or people that you look up to and you see them doing 6 or 7 day per week training sessions, you can't compare yourself to them because your lifestyle is completely different. And just because you can't do the exact same style of training or exact same eating or whatever it is as them, that doesn't mean that you can't see results with what you can do. So I really want to highlight that, like, more is not always better. The goal shouldn't always be to do more just to do more. It should be to get the maximum results with spending as little time in the gym as possible, in my opinion, because then you have more time to go out and put that to use in life and live your life and do fun things. And you're not wasting hours away in the gym. Most of you are likely not an elite athlete. You're not going to the Olympics. You're not needing to be at this level of training that I'm not saying it negatively, but I'm not either. But you know what I mean? Like even us, I have huge goals with strength and running and I want to do big things, but I know that I'm not going to be an elite athlete at this point in my life. So you really have to just kind of check yourself for a second there too, and remind yourself that it doesn't have to be that one way that one person is doing it for you to be successful.
And especially in the physique era, like we see these bodybuilders and forget performance. Like, I want to look like that guy. Well, all this guy does is eat, sleep, train, take some gear, and repeat. That is his life. He gets paid to do that. So to expect to look like that is, forget about the unrealisticness. It's disrespectful to that guy who has dedicated his life to specifically looking that good and to being able to be on the cover of a magazine to be this motivational figure in a sense. And, I was big into Greek mythology. I love the stories of the Greek gods. I love the storytelling they've created from that. And just seeing someone with that godlike physique is motivating. It's inspiring. It feels like there's real life superheroes. But we are not all real life superheroes in that sense. We are to our families. We are to our friends, to our communities. Like, those are the things we're working to create a balance with. So to expect to be able to do all the things that you have to do in your life and be elite in a specific regard like that, it's not respectful to the athletes and the individuals and the entrepreneurs and the X, Y, and Z fill in the blank who have dedicated their lives to doing that one thing. You can't be a jack of all trades and expect to be a master of these other things as well. So we have to categorize ourselves. Are we going to be on stage? Are we going to be competing in the arena? Or do we just want to look really good for our spouse and we want to feel really good for our kids and perform really well for work? Are those our goals? Okay, so what's in alignment with that? And how do we reframe our expectations of ourselves to align with that more accurately painted vision?
Yeah, I was like, oh, if Chris Bumstead works out 6 days a week and I work out 6 days a week, why don't I look like Chris Bumstead?
Who knows?
Damn. What's
Grand
wrong with
mystery.
my genetics? Why didn't I get that?
Yeah.
Speaking of this is kind of a side topic, but I feel like, tell me if you guys agree. I don't know the right way to phrase this, but I feel like the average person doesn't really, can't really gauge muscle mass accurately, if that makes any sense
That's
at all.
me.
I feel like, I'm trying
Give
to
an
say,
example.
I don't even know. If you look at somebody
How
I
much
don't know if,
muscle someone has?
yes, I don't know if you know, Lucy Davis, she's currently the top elite high rocks, whatever. She's a athlete for Bear Performance Nutrition. She's just kind of at the top of high rocks right now. She's jacked.
Dense.
She is lean. She is ripped. She has a shit ton of muscle. And I feel like the average person looks at that, or looks even at a bodybuilder, for example, and doesn't realize how much muscle mass these people actually have. And then when they start to train, this is where the whole bulky thing comes in. They feel like they're just getting bulky, and I don't know. I feel like people just inaccurately gauge muscle mass in a general sense.
I don't know where you're going with that last part, but so for example, a bodybuilder who might cut to 220 and their stage weight is 220, their walking around daily weight is 270 to 300. That's what they walk around at, and then they shed the fat, they shed the water, they do this massive thing for the stage presence, and they'll walk. Oh, I'm 215. I can get close to that.
But
No,
even when they're walking around at stage lean on a day, unless they're posing, when you see someone, a bodybuilder who on a daily basis, just walking in the gym, not posing, not under the lighting, they don't have the tan, they look completely different than when they're flexing. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's kind of the point I'm trying to get across, is most people will see an amount of muscle mass like that and think that's just a realistic amount that people walk around looking like every day. They look like the Hulk all day.
You're talking Instagram versus reality type posts?
Kind of, yeah. I guess you could say it like that. But
I also think, and maybe this is where you're coming from too, Alessandra, I also think now, because of social media, we have a very skewed view of what fit looks like.
Yes.
I think and maybe this is because we work in this industry, so I actually don't know if this is the average person who doesn't work in this industry, if they feel the same way. I feel like we probably have a very skewed view of what lean is, what muscular is. And there's part of us that associates the bodybuilder with jacked, lean, stage ready, that look. You're and we know that ultimately that's not super healthy, and that's a whole other topic. But I think that if you follow a bunch of goal physique people on Instagram, most of them probably are not they're the 1%, is what I'm trying to say. Yes. They're not the average just gym goer who prioritizes their health and wellness. They eat pretty well during the week. They go to the gym a few days a week. They make their health and fitness a priority. That person, they look good. They look fit, but like they're not going to look like Chris Bumstead. Chris Bumstead barely looks like Chris Bumstead. You know what I mean? Like nobody looks like Chris Bumstead. So I think that's what that was my kind of play on what you were saying, was like, I think we have a skewed image of how much muscle people have, how much work that actually is, how much time was put into that previously, and like what it takes to get to that level, but B, that we have a very skewed view as a society, I think, of like what fit looks like or what health looks like.
I don't know if you guys have seen these posts recently. It's been a lot of these, this is what it looks like to train after, 5 years, after 10 years, 5 days a week. And it looks just like an average human.
An average dude. I've seen a few of those. They get so
much hate. Like, did you just start yesterday? So much hate, because everyone's used to seeing the guy who's, there was a comparison post. So this is what kind of triggered this conversation. Yesterday, it was a call-out video of that guy calling out the first guy's call-out video. This dude who is on steroids, he's like, yeah, this is me training up 4 years, and then this is a 1 year difference from year 4 to year 5. And then the other guy cuts back. He's like, yeah, that is the year you started taking gear. And then he sees this huge improvement, and it's like, that's fine. And like, he's been open about it. But at the same time, you built your massive following when you were on gear. You didn't tell people you were on gear until after you had built the massive following. And then you're talking about, what you should look like after 4 years, after 5 years, after 10 years, whatever that is. So to that point exactly, everyone thinks this literally enhanced physique. This is not 10 years of training. This is 10 years of training plus the injections that have been going on a daily basis for however long it's been. And that's what we expect from health and fitness. These are the ones with 500,000 to 5 million followers. So this must be the standard. This is the person I should follow, versus the person who is in shape and they have healthy blood markers and everything's going and it's balanced and yada, yada, yada. They eat well and they do all the things they say they're doing, but they just look like a fit dude. Like, oh, that's cool. You probably work out a little bit, versus the guy who is 220 and on steroids and train it 6 days a week.
And that is exactly the point I was getting at, Josh. This like the skewed, we have a skewed idea of what fit looks like. I remember my friend, Dr. Joey Munoz, he did a post like that where he was like, he took his shirt off. He was in the gym. He was like, this is my body. I work out 4 days a week. I have 2 kids. I've been training consistently for over a decade. I have a PhD in nutrition science. Like, I eat healthy. I prioritize fruits, vegetables, protein. And he was getting ripped in the comments of, you've been training for this long and this is what you look like with your mid physique and blah, blah, blah.
I would love to see what those people look like who are commenting this.
Probably people that don't even work out. But it's like, it just goes to show, if your only idea of what fit looks like is an elite bodybuilder or the most elite high rocks competitor, you have a very skewed idea of what health and fitness looks like. And I'm putting that in quotes. If you're watching this, you could see me, but I'm putting looks like in quotes because we don't always know what health or fitness look like. But we expect a certain look when we hear that someone works out.
It reminds me, wait, hold on. I want to jump in here. It reminds me, and we could probably do a whole episode on this. I think this would be a great topic. The whole Pilates skinny talk era is kind of happening right now. And
did you hear TikTok?
Yes, hold on. Okay. We'll touch on that in a second. But a lot of people who spent a long time lifting weights heavy and tracking macros and doing things doing the things that we preach about often as just like baseline health and fitness things, they stopped doing those things, started doing Pilates, started eating intuitively, less protein, and they're like pushing this narrative that lifting weights made them inflamed and like whatever. It's this whole thing that's happening. And I think this is so interesting to me. But like now what's happening is it's gaining attention because yes, they maybe lost some muscle mass, they lost some body fat, they look like just like a smaller human, and that's attracting more, like women want to look like that. But they still have a good amount of muscle mass. They just maybe whatever. They lost a little bit of fat and dialed things in a little bit
now
more.
Now they look leaner.
And now they're saying they look leaner, but they're saying it's because they stopped lifting weights that you need to stop lifting weights if you want to look like this. And
I look like this because I do Pilates, not because I had 10 years of weightlifting under my belt.
Exactly. And it drives me nuts because it's not like you still built that muscle from lifting weights over the last 10 years. And it just is really pushing the wrong message, because what's going to happen when we stop? We already have people who are not lifting weights progressively enough. Right. And now we are pushing people to not lift weights even more, especially women, who are then going to suffer from osteoporosis and, your increase for all of these health markers that we know lifting weights helps. It goes up because you're not lifting weights and you're not building more muscle, and your muscle mass is going to naturally decline as you get older. So I think that whole side of things is just very interesting, and maybe we dive into that in a separate episode, but kind of tying into our little conversation here, I wanted to touch on that.
Could we touch on skinny talk getting banned for a minute?
Yeah.
Because I want to bring this up. So I saw a headline the other day that said the hashtag skinny talk just got banned from TikTok. And now if you search it, it will bring you to mental health services, which I think is so interesting. On the flip side, there are people up in arms about it, because they think that it's preventing people from accessing healthy information. And we are amongst an obesity epidemic. And how dare you stop people from trying to be healthier? But, Alessandra, you're on TikTok way more than I am. So I have never personally clicked the skinny talk hashtag. But from what I have heard from friends, cousins, and just about skinny talk to begin with, is that it was essentially eating disorders, disordered eating. It was not about people actually getting healthier. It was girls being if that food is not going to make you hotter, then get it out of your mouth. Just kind of icky, disguised, disordered eating disorder tactics.
It was a lot of the one meal a day. Here's what I ate today, and it was the one meal a day, or it was maybe an 800 calorie day of food, and I'd be like, what the heck is going on
for TikTok to ban a hashtag means it had to be pretty damaging.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I'm glad that they did it. I think
Respect.
I think the argument of we're amongst a health epidemic and an obesity epidemic, that's true, but two things can be true at once.
Yep.
Banning that hashtag might be a good thing, because it's, I'm sure, mostly young girls who are falling into that hashtag. Then that could be very damaging. And also, we might be amongst an obesity epidemic, and a TikTok hashtag is not going to fix that.
Right.
Two things can be true at once. So
agreed.
Just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, I think we can definitely dive deeper into all sides there. So you guys let us know if you want us to. We kind of went off on a big tangent there.
Yeah, where are we? What are we supposed to be talking about?
What are we talking about today?
I think we got to run more content for debunking skinny talk. Run some ads, some paid content to what do? We run more ads.
Well, we can't say skinny talk now because we'll get banned.
You can't say it out loud?
You can't hashtag it. You probably can't. I don't know if you can say it. It'll
we
probably
can run it on Instagram.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, to that point, Josh, a lot of people did use it in a helpful way too, using it to then put out good, healthy information, knowing that people looking for diet information would be scanning that, if that makes sense. But that you're going to get that anywhere. It doesn't have to be skinny talk. We can be healthy talk.
Be health talk, fit
health talk.
Yeah. Health talk. It's not as catchy, I guess.
Not as catchy.
No.
There's a friend of mine that she used to be a Levolution client, first of me, and then I think of John, or I don't remember. Anyway, she was a Levolution client. We go to the same gym. We'll see each other once or twice a week at the gym. And even she has been telling me Joelle, I get addicted to this skinny talk stuff. And I know it's not true. She's I know better. I've worked with you. I've worked with John. I know better. And still sometimes I'm so intrigued, and I fall in this rabbit hole of scrolling skinny talk, and these girls wearing their ankle weights, and these girls going on walks and just doing this to lean out their arms. And I'm you know better. And she's I know better. But
for those who can't see, she's flapping her wings like a chicken.
Flapping my arms.
Well, you see a lean, healthy, fashionable. It's usually the fashion people you see. And if you don't have a body like that and you want a body like that, then you're drawn into it and you buy into the BS pretty much.
To that point, I will say TikTok is very good about whatever that dopamine looks like for their algorithm. You might not have any interest in whatever the fuck you're watching, but for the 30 seconds I'm on TikTok to try to throw something up that I just posted somewhere else and I'm just trying to post it, and it makes you watch while it's loading, you get sucked. You don't even realize you're watching anything. You are just in a zombie state. And so you're staring at the screen, and 15 videos later, like, what just happened?
What just happened?
So it's not even like just the skinny talk. It's just they have what's Gary Vee call it? It's an interest-based algorithm versus social media. Social media was like your following dictates how many views you get, and now it's all like the For You page, interest-based, and TikTok leads the way with that innovation in regards to what content gets pulled up. So like they have mastered this hypnosis. That's not an algorithm. It's just straight up hypnosis.
No, so what TikTok does is it'll push your video out. Like when you post a video, like you said, it doesn't matter how many followers you have. They'll push it to 200 people's For You page, and depending on those 200 people, if they engage with it or not, it will then push it to more people and keep opening the floodgates, and that's how your video goes viral. So it has absolutely nothing to do with follower count or anything. It just depends on those first 200 people who see your video randomly.
That's interesting.
But, yeah, anywho. Back to all or nothing thinking.
All or nothing. So Joelle, you did about, I don't know how deep in we're into this, but about a half an hour ago, you talked about the shiny object syndrome and a part of the all or nothing trap. So you also recently had a post about the things you don't care about. If you want to throw out maybe the top 5 from that list and kind of bring up why you don't care and why that's preventing them from being consistent, why that's keeping them in this all or nothing trap.
So I think for me, when I had made that post, it was things that I perceive that people overcomplicate. And my evidence of that would be the type of questions that we typically get, whether it's on a Q&A for the podcast, whether it's on a Q&A on Instagram, things like, I don't care if you don't optimize your morning routine. If you're not doing red light therapy and cold plunges and meditation in the morning, like, I don't care, because at the end of the day, everyone's morning routine can look a little bit different. Are there things that we could do in the morning that might set ourselves up for a better day or a more grateful day? Things like that, of course. But if your morning routine is not optimized with sunning your butthole and doing red light therapy, I'm okay with that. Like, I don't care. And so that's where I was kind of coming from with that post, was just not overcomplicating things.
Well, side note, real quick tangent, you could take it back. If you are doing the red butthole? No, not the butthole. If you are doing the red light, if you can just drop in the comments how you feel on that. I am very curious, and I've heard good things, so I'll let you keep going, but I want to hear from the people who have done the red light.
I do too, actually, only because I'm curious about putting red light on my neck with all my neck issues and headache issues. So anyway, so I think that's kind of where I was coming from. Another great example that I think gets overcomplicated is people demonizing specific modes of fitness, specifically group fitness. Like, I think there was this big wave for a while of people saying, like, don't do Orange Theory, don't do F45, like, don't do those group fitness classes, like, if you have goals. And the reality is, like, group fitness is not evil. If you are consistent and you're progressing and you are showing up there because that's exciting for you and that feels more fun to you, and that's a method of fitness and exercise that you enjoy, great. That's a win. Love that for you. I don't care if you do group fitness. So I think we just tend to overcomplicate, like, when should I be training? What type should I be training? What workouts should I be doing? What supplements should I be taking? And I think most of it is not worth stressing about. Like, pick workouts that you enjoy. Eat in a way that feels good for you. Buy the groceries that you can afford. Like, there's just so many pieces of this that we overcomplicate, like organic versus inorganic. Do you need $9 strawberries to be healthy? No. wash your damn fruit, wash your damn vegetables, buy what fits your budget. That's something I don't care if you do. I don't care if you don't buy organic fruit. I don't always buy organic fruit either. Maybe I do if it's on sale or whatever else, but I don't always buy the organic thing. So that's where I'm coming from with the all or nothing mindset of like, I don't care if you do certain things because you're likely overcomplicating those types of things that I mentioned are likely just things that people are overcomplicating.
That single word sums it up and is the most powerful factor in regards to the barrier to entry and why I'm not getting started and why I feel overwhelmed. It's the overcomplication. Like you think there are so many different intricacies, intangibles, intangibles that you need to apply or, throw to the side, stop doing. Like that's why we created the L5 method. There are 5 pillars. If you put one thing in each one, does not matter what it looks like, just stick to one thing for each of those 5. You're in a better position than 99% of the population. That's training, nutrition, mindset, movement, and habits. Have one practice for each. And that can literally include what we talked about before with that power of 2. Read 2 pages before bed. There's your habit. Go for a 2-minute walk. If you're just getting started, that's your box. Check it. Have 2 colors for the day. There's your nutrition. And these basic things, they sound ridiculously small. If you're not doing anything and you start with that in each of those 5 categories, you will feel tremendous changes within a week. And then you can upgrade those one at a time, level those up little by little.
There was a comment that I got on that post that said, I can't tell you the weight that this post just lifted off my shoulders because consumers are confused.
Very.
There's just a lot of noise. It's all noise.
There's a lot of noise, and you feel like if you're not doing it perfectly, you're doing it wrong. And what even is perfectly? Because everyone you follow has a different opinion about what you should or shouldn't be doing. So start small.
How big of a factor do you guys think this identity thing is? Like for a while, the easy example here was CrossFit. It's not I do CrossFit. I am CrossFit. It's a cult. I love it. This is my thing. This is how I live. How big of a factor, like positive or negatively, do we feel like that plays? Like as far as community, that's a huge positive. I identify with this community versus I am this diet. I am carnivore.
I think that people feel a sense of accountability when they feel a sense of community. I know that people talk about that with Orange Theory or with CrossFit. Like they have a community there, people who are expecting them there to be at that 5 a.m. class or that 12 p.m. class or whatever it is. There's a level of accountability that comes with community. And I think people really like that.
I think people also just like to belong to something. Like it's our in our nature as humans to want to be part of a group. Like you go think back to like the cavemen days. Like you are part of a tribe. You're part of a group. It's your community is such an important aspect of our lives. And I think a lot of people get that from health and fitness through things like CrossFit. Now it's High Rocks. Like it's just like a sense of belonging to something bigger than you. And I don't know, I think there's a lot of power to that. And I think that's something that we are trying to level up, I guess is the word, establish in our side of things here too.
I was also going to hit on that. Like, I agree with you, and that's still a very positive aspect of it. But I also think a lot of the negative aspects come from that as well. Like, I need to belong to something, so I'm going to do keto because I found this keto community online. Like, I love the accountability. I love the sense of belonging to something, a purpose that's bigger than yourself. But I also think that is part of the jumping from fad diet to fad thing to fad whatever, because I just want to belong. And, like, this is a place where I feel like is easy to get in with this community.
I think I have two main issues on the dangerous side of this argument. One is that when we start to associate our diet or our style of training or something like that with our identity, I'm a CrossFitter or like I am CrossFit. Because it's obviously fine to call yourself a CrossFitter if you do CrossFit regularly. I'm not saying that that's bad, but when you identify as something like that, I am carnivore, and like you have in your profile, like you're the keto warrior and you're the carnivore queen and whatever, I think that gets dangerous for two main reasons. One, we become very dogmatic and stringent, like strict with what we're doing. And that typically is not sustainable. And when we get really dogmatic about what we're doing, we also start to have extreme biases toward what we are doing. And then everyone else who's not doing what we're doing is wrong. And that becomes really problematic, in my opinion. The other thing that I think is dangerous is if our whole identity is wrapped up in the way we do fitness, let's say, or the way we exercise, what happens when you break your leg and you can't do that exercise anymore? What happens to your identity?
Depression, anxiety.
Yeah. I mean, I've been through seasons of life where I had to change the way I was training, change my exercise frequency, intensity, duration. And I felt so lost. And I didn't stop exercising altogether, but I was like, I'm the gym girl. And now I'm not really the gym girl, like in that specific phase of life. Or even I think of like my first early postpartum with Sloan.
I was going
like
to say pregnancy postpartum is a prime example.
The first 4 to 6 weeks where I didn't exercise, I was like, who am I now? And there's obviously like a small identity crisis that happens when you become a mom too in the first place. But you took like the one thing that grounded you, being exercise maybe, and you remove that and you're like, what am I now? And so that's the other thing that I think gets a little dangerous when we wrap up our whole identity in a specific diet or a specific training style.
Yeah. And that can even happen subconsciously. Like I think about our different phases of life and going from early college to later college to parenthood and all of this, like growing up, once I discovered the gym, like I was gym guy. I was typically one of the strongest. I was the leanest. I had the best physique for a very long time. And then I got into college and that mattered a little bit less. And I was the party guy. I became that. I took that on as my identity. I threw the best parties. We had the themes, we had the strobe lights, we had all the things. I took pride in that. My physique. Strobe lights. We had fog machines.
That was
we got mentioning. Glow in the dark. We had to repaint our entire basement because we bought, 100 glow in the dark. It was like paint pens.
We went to college in the day glow era, so yes, that's really where this
where that came from. Absolutely. And then I destroyed my health, and then my identity became, healing from Barrett's esophagus. And now we've come full circle, and I want to get back to, it's like, going through this conversation, realizing what's happening in my brain, reestablish the identity of fit. Like I've been in the fitness industry this entire time, but that obvious identity of I belong there, because for a while you start to lose that when you were in the position I was in, when it was getting back to just feeling like a human and gaining my health back. And like, not that I look out of shape, I would like to look elite again. And we just talked about this, like what is elite? What does elite look like naturally versus enhanced? So we're all on the same page with this. It's being aware, like we talk about this all the time. Through awareness, you create change. So it's becoming aware of our thought patterns, of our habits, of certain things that are going on in our lives, and allowing that to shape a healthy reframe. So what I consider elite now is probably different than what I thought elite was when I was in college. Like this was the beginning of the Steve Cook era. 6'2", 220, absolutely yoked, going into his Olympia prime. Like that was my goal forever. I'm not going to look like that, but I can look pretty good. We can get closer than we are right now. So I think there's a big part of that, what you guys are talking about, as far as wanting this sense of belonging, and it just all kind of ebbs and flows back into the pillars of this conversation today. So I just wanted to throw that out there with it, but. Listen, if you're tired of the all or nothing cycles, the diet starts Monday, the I know what to do, I'm just not doing it feeling, we should probably talk. Our one-on-one online coaching isn't just about workouts and meal plans. It's about building something that actually fits your life. No cookie cutter templates, no guilt, just real coaching and real results. Plus, we've got a pretty big team, so we can even pair you with an expert who actually understands your lifestyle because they've gone through it too. If that sounds like what you've been missing, check out the link in the show notes to apply for coaching. Then we'll send you the link to book a free, no obligation consult call with our team. There are no hard closes. We won't even take your credit card over the phone. You'll get the details to sign up on your own time. And more good news, we are in fact qualified for HSA FSA reimbursement. One last thing, we even offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you have nothing to lose. What are you waiting for? Spots are limited, so apply today. All right, let's get back to the show. Yeah.
Well, anyone who's listening, you are the fitness league, so you belong here.
Yeah. Yeah, you're part of these.
You have a place right here to call home. The fitness league.
Well, one last little component here, and I think we've kind of touched on it through a lot of these, but one of the, and I would even say to a point, these aren't necessarily bad things that these guys are creating, but they are the epitome of quote unquote discipline. And you'll hear people talk about, oh, it's discipline, it's not motivation, it's willpower, it's fill in the blank for whatever word that you want to use. And people can beat themselves up over that. Like, oh, well, I'm going through this tougher phase of life. Like, I think I'm disciplined, or I guess I'm not disciplined because this guy's running 100 miles every, 4 weeks or 4 days or whatever their protocol looks like. Like, why can't I stick with this one basic thing? So what would you say is this, I don't know, hidden theme of discipline? What is the truth when it comes to discipline, and how do we nurture it, or do we disregard it altogether when it comes to establishing a consistent routine?
Something that stands out to me when it comes to discipline and behavior change, because I do think that there's an interplay between those two things. Especially if we're talking about the person who's starting over and over and over again, right? There's a discipline piece, yes, but there's also a behavior change piece, and then being able to stick to that behavior change is kind of what we're talking about. Something that I like to remind people is that it's easier to change your environment than it is to change a behavior. Behavior change is really freaking hard. It's doable, but it's hard. When we can change our environment, and I'll give some examples of that in a minute, when we can change our environment to better support the behavior that we want to change, it becomes easier. So an example of that, a simple example of that would be, you maybe want to start eating more fruit, include more color in your diet. So now instead of having a candy bowl out on your counter of M&Ms, you keep a fruit bowl out on your counter of apples and bananas and oranges, things that can, just be at room temperature. And every time you walk into your kitchen, you see that big bowl of fruit there. You changed something in your environment that is going to help cue the behavior that you want to change. Instead of just remembering like, oh, did I eat a fruit today? Now it's cued. It's right on your kitchen counter. You changed something in your environment to make it easier for you. You laid out your gym clothes, Alessandra, the night before, so that when you wake up in the morning, just lowers the barrier to entry. Your workout outfit is already there and ready to go. So what can we change in our environment to help reinforce the behavior that we're wanting to change? Because changing the environment can really, really help with the behavior change. So that's something that I would really want people to keep in mind when it comes to that discipline piece, is having the environment reinforce the behavior that you want.
And I think on the motivation side, you will often hear a lot of people say motivation isn't real, or you can't rely on motivation. And there's some truth to that, but I also disagree with that. Like, motivation is real. We need some motivation, but I think people think about motivation incorrectly. They think they need motivation to start, when in reality, action precedes motivation. You need to take action first, then the motivation comes. When you start to feel good, when you start to see progress, when you start to reap some of the smaller benefits, that's when I get motivated. I'm not always motivated to go work out and get out in the gym and wake up at 5 a.m. But when I start to see the results from doing so, that keeps me going. That motivates me. So I think motivation is real. It's just that a lot of people go about it in the wrong way and are waiting for it to just magically appear. That's not going to happen.
Create it. Right. You can create it.
Two things I want to hit on, one from each of you. The first one in regards to that motivation, I think reshaping that as this North Star concept. So it's not this burning fire in the moment. I am so motivated to go work out right now because I just woke up and I'm in a great mood. That rarely happens. You're getting that once, maybe twice a week. When you find your purpose, we talked about this a couple episodes ago, might even have been in more than one episode. When you re-identify your passion, your purpose, this is what I'm working towards. You have now created this North Star. This is your guide. So now we get to ask the question, does this action right now get me closer to that goal, or does it bring me further away from that goal? And that's kind of a reframe of the concept of motivation. It's not the burning in your belly, I am so passionate to do this right now. It's reminding yourself based on your passion, based on that North Star. Joel, when you're talking about environment, I think it's such a powerful thing. The things that are immediately around you, are they supporting you or are they holding you back? Are they creating friction towards, your goal, or are they making it easier to hit your goal? One thing that's a little more difficult, but it's still in that environmental realm, is the people around you. And that's in person and online. Who are you following? Who are you taking information? What was that?
I knew you were going to say that.
It's who are, yeah, exactly. I mean, this is something we go through all the time with just back and forth with this stuff, but it's reshaped who we surround ourselves with in our personal life. Yep. For online, it's easy to unfollow and then try to retrain the algorithm to, okay, these are the people that align with what I'm doing, similar phases of life. I like what they're preaching. In person, way more difficult. It could be reshaping your entire friend group. It could be reshaping how you interact with people at work and what you consume. Are we engaging in gossip, or are we kind of disregarding and making that kaput and walk away, whatever that looks like? There is so much around us that can fuel us in a positive way that we can take home with us. I'm like, wow, I'm very happy to be living in a time where we can do these things and make these changes. It can also be incredibly toxic and depressing. And how the fuck are we alive in the here and now with all these terrible things going on? Sure, there are shitty things going on right now, but like, we aren't in the middle of some of the worst days in history. Like, we've seen some pretty dark ages in human times. There's a lot of evil, which there always will be, but there is a lot of promise. There's a lot of potential, and it's up to us to decide how we want to frame that. And that's obviously in a super zoomed out macro sense, just the state of the world. But in the form of, how do I become a better version of me? Are these people making silly comments, sly comments, backhanded comments about what I'm doing, why I'm doing it? Are they my cheerleaders? Are they supporting what I'm doing, how I'm doing it? Are they working with me in some capacity? We have the smallest circle I think we have ever had at any point in our lives at this point in time. And I don't believe there is a single person still in it that I feel like is even neutral to what we're doing. Like, they are hardcore supporters, which is what we need. Anyone else who is neutral or negative has slowly found the door, or quickly found the door, depending how you look at it.
I agree. And I think a lot of people underestimate how much they're influenced by what they're consuming daily. Like, even if you follow people who you're kind of like, whatever, like, they're decent to follow. I don't even know why I followed them in the first place, but I'll keep following them. Like, they are influencing you whether you realize it or not. So I highly recommend auditing who you're following, both in person and online, regularly, because those little blips of their life that you see are impacting you if you are taking it in on a daily basis. So just keep that in mind.
Joel, did I miss anything you thought I was going to take it in a certain direction with?
No, I had a feeling when I brought up environment and you were circling back to that, I was going to say, I was thinking he's going to bring up the environment of who you surround yourself with. So I had a feeling that's where you were going.
Look at you guys. You guys just know.
Look at us. Look at us. Just sharing brainwaves.
Well, when
Josh is like, our circle is small, and either you're a supporter or you own the business with me. And that's where I thought you were going with that sentence. You're like, either you support us or you own it.
Literally.
You
own half of
partner,
myself.
you're a business partner.
It's true.
That's just how it's worked out, which is fine. It's fine.
That's just the way it is.
We're so excited to share Project B with you guys.
Oh, Scotty's calling. Howdy, Scott. Oh, well, that's my camera, but Scott's face.
Welcome to the pod.
We have a mental health call with Scott today for our Levolution clients, so he's probably calling to review that with me.
Little pregame game plan.
Pregame. Exactly.
All right, fam. Anything else that we missed that you want to throw in before we say goodbye?
I feel like we touched on a lot of variety here, and it was a good one.
Yep.
So I hope that you guys thought it was a good one too, because I like the tangents, I will say. And I think in the past we've gotten feedback that people like the tangents as well. So hopefully
it was just chatty.
There was some takeaways. Yeah, it's fun when it's like that.
One thing we didn't talk about was our 3-episode rule. If you've listened beyond 3 episodes, please pay your dues and drop us a quick 5-star review. That is not helping us make any money. It's just helping this this podcast reach a new listener who can get some free actionable steps, free actionable guidance. For those who aren't, coaching clients, they're not in the app. This is a free resource we provide to them, and we continue to put out for you guys typically twice a week. A lot of time goes into these. We're doing it for you. We love you. We appreciate you. You are the Fitness League. You are why we're here. All we ask is you leave a 5-star review. If you've gotten value. If you haven't, just go ahead and stop listening. Tag us on social media. Share the episode. If you got value, the point is someone else probably will too. And we try to provide on every single episode some take-home you can apply in your daily life. So that is literally all we ask of you. You guys have been doing great. I noticed, I think a lot of you are on Spotify because the Spotify reviews are going up quite a bit. Apple has plateaued a little bit. So if that's you, don't forget. It's okay if you forgot, but this is your reminder. As soon as this is over, or jump out right now, tap the quick 5-star. Other than that, where can they find you?
I'm at Alessandra Skutnik.
At Joelle Samantha.
I'm at Josh Skutnik.
And everything else you need is linked in the show notes.